Many Democrats are looking forward to next year's midterm elections as a chance to win back the House and/or the Senate. Some call it the blue wave. Tonight, correspondent Ellison Barber looks at whether that positive attitude is justified.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you took the right road.
Democrats with a surprise Senate victory in a traditionally red-hot Alabama are now looking ahead with optimism to 2018 and a realistic chance to retake the House of Representatives and maybe the Senate. Some party leaders say the way Republicans push tax reform through is proof of a desperate GOP.
They're acting like people who know that their power is short-lived.
When it comes to 2018, history favors the minority. Midterm elections for first-term presidents typically mean heavy losses for their party in Congress. But even with President Trump's approval ratings lingering in the 35% range, Democrats are divided over which strategy will lead them to victory. In one camp, the impeachers. Some House Democrats have already tried and failed to introduce articles of impeachment, citing what they call the president's bigoted, hate-filled statements, and they promise to raise the issue next year if the president fires special counsel Robert Mueller over the Russia probe.
If it doesn't lead to the impeachment of the president of the United States, then I think we should just resign our jobs because we're not fulfilling our commitment to maintaining a democracy.
But on the other side, the traditionalists who want to make the 2018 elections less about Trump's character and more about issues.
Instead of focusing on replacing President Trump, we ought to be focusing on the things that attract people to the Democratic Party: jobs, wages, health care, education, retirement security.
Many say that strategic divide could hurt Democratic candidates next year. Party leaders are at least signaling their desire to work with the White House and the GOP majority on infrastructure, health care, budgets, and more.
We have the immigration issues that need to be dealt with now, and I think the manner in which that is handled can set the stage for Congress. If the president won't work with us on that, it's going to be a tough year.
President Trump has publicly stated his willingness to make a midterm deal, tweeting Tuesday, the Democrats and Republicans will eventually come together and develop a great new health care plan. Democrats are a party at a crossroads. They're suffering severe financial shortfalls at the national level and infighting among leadership over direction. They're still looking for that next star, a uniting progressive figure that will lead them out of the political wilderness. Mike?
Ellison Barber live here in Washington. Ellison, many thanks.
Without social media, I'm not sure that I would be here talking.
Issues of trolling, extremism, fake news, and cyberbullying are major social issues.
Right. All of us in leadership have to find ways in which we can recreate a common space on the internet.
Tweeting is like a typewriter. When I put it out, you put it immediately on your show.
People can have entirely different realities. They can be just cocooned.
When somebody says something about me, I'm able to go bing, 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 and I take care of it.
It's also, by the way, harder to be as obnoxious and cruel in person as people can be anonymously on the internet.
The ones that don't want me to are the enemies.
The 45th president and the 44th president with different views on social media. Let's bring in our panel. Charles Hurt, opinion editor for The Washington Times. Mo Elleithee, executive director of the Georgetown Institute of Politics. And Jason Riley, Wall Street Journal columnist and senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. Gentlemen, nice to see you.
Good to see you. Happy holidays.
Your reaction to the back and forth today over social media, Jason?
Well, it's hard to quibble with the substance of what President Obama said. You know, cyberbullying is a problem. Differentiating between real news and fake news is a problem. Twitter and Facebook and parents, frankly, are worried about all of this. But at the same time, I think President Obama knew exactly what he was doing when he weighed in answering, which were admittedly leading questions by Prince Harry. If you listen or read the transcript of the interview, he knew they would be taken the way they have been taken. And, you know, a lot of presidents, when their successor gets into office, they sort of back off. They don't weigh in on the debates. President Obama hasn't done that. From time to time, he weighed in on the travel ban. He's weighed in defense of Obamacare. Right. So he's taken a different route here, and I think this is another example of him doing that.
Mo, your read on the president, the former president, weighing in on some of the current issues and today on social media?
I think one of the greatest challenges we face today politically, and this is a completely nonpartisan problem, is this great siloing and great cocooning that's happening. And social media and technology actually allows that to happen. The Wall Street Journal ran this great graphic right before the election, where they took a progressive's Facebook feed and a conservative's Facebook feed over the same exact period of time using the same exact keywords, and you would think they live in very, very different worlds, very, very different realities. We have lost some ability to have a common conversation. It's not limited only to social media, but it really has exacerbated it. And I do think it is a legitimate concern that not just leaders, but consumers of this information need to be aware of and try to do better at.
And Charlie, the tweeting might make some of President Trump's advisors gray, but no signs of him giving up the Twitter feed.
Hey, it's great for us, right?
Right.
In the press. Well, you know, this reminds me of how obnoxious President Obama can be. You know, he goes over to the BBC and talks to Prince, whatever his name, William, or whatever he is, whatever his title is,
Harry,
and whatever. And he does this interview where he's clearly attacking the president. And this notion that you're going to attack the president for using Twitter is akin to me attacking FDR for using the newfangled radio to do his fireside chats. It's just a form of communicating with people and a way he can communicate with people around a media that viciously despises him. And I just don't think that that's a bad thing. But this was the line that I thought it was astonishing. He said, all of us in leadership have to find ways in which we can recreate a common space on the internet. The arrogance of that from President Obama, and it shows that he really doesn't understand the internet. He doesn't understand the beauty of the internet is that leadership has nothing to do with creating or recreating anything. This is just people with 1,000, a million connections with other people sort of interacting. And the notion that he's going to sit back and say, oh, well, you know, people like me in leadership, I need to go in here and fix all of this. No, you don't. You just mess it up.
And he also said government, in fairness, he said government should not be the one to do that, and that this is about people in leadership taking responsibility. And as I said, it's also on the consumers, right? And it's not just the people who are online. I mean, when we get off the air and I go to my Twitter feed, I guarantee there are going to be people there that say I should go to another network because I'm a Democrat. That alone tells you just how siloed and cocooned we are.
And I applaud his saying that, but the problem is that the policies that his administration put forward didn't fall into line with that. You know, this whole debate over net neutrality is a belief that the government should be involved in traffic copping all of this stuff.
Well, and Mo, for the record, we're glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be here.
President Obama has also come out and defended his signature health care law, Obamacare. Let's take a listen to that.
When I see people trying to undo that hard-won progress for the 50th or 60th time with bills that would raise costs or reduce coverage or roll back protections for older Americans or people with pre-existing conditions, it frustrates. And it's certainly frustrating to have to mobilize every couple of months to keep our leaders from inflicting real human suffering on our constituents.
So, Jason, any surprise that the 44th president has been out there? That was not from today, obviously, but defending his signature law and some of his legacy?
Well, again, the only surprise is that presidents or ex-presidents typically don't do that, at least this soon. George W. Bush was probably the most recent example of this, of a president who when his term was over, he walked away and let the debate continue without him. President Obama has decided to weigh in on this, and it hasn't only been in defending things like Obamacare, but also in other actions that the administration has taken, such as a travel ban. So it's unconventional, but if you're a Trump supporter, I guess you really can't complain about politicians acting in an unconventional way. Right. But certainly this is not the route that most former presidents have taken.
Now, Prince Harry was put on the hot spot himself and asked if President Obama would be invited to the royal wedding. Take a listen to this.
We share the same kind of mindset and the outlook on the charitable sector, on foundations, and mainly on the youth of today. The young people of this world are incredibly inspirational.
Well enough to invite him to your wedding?
Well, I don't know about that. That's we haven't put the invite or the guest list together yet, so who knows whether he's going to be invited or not.
As a married man, I would say that was wise not to speak without consulting the fiancée first, but there's more to it than that, Mo, in terms of if you invite the former president, don't invite the current president. It could be a bit of drama between the U.S.-Britain relationship.
Yeah, one of the most interesting storylines for me is that the reports that there are those within the British government who are advising Prince Harry not to invite President Obama for fear of hurting President Trump's feelings that he was not being invited. And so, look, it's a wedding. Invite who you want.
Charlie, if you get invited, would you go to the wedding?
No, I definitely would not go to a royal wedding.
We overthrew
the king for a reason.
Considering you were calling a great party.
Considering you were calling him Prince, what's his name?
Yeah, whatever. I don't need titles.